Hey everyone, we're back and we're going to talk about what happens to Joseph in Egypt. So he gets sold to a very rich man named Potiphar, and everything is going well. And Joseph does well. He likes his master likes him. He moves up the ranks. He's like second in command in his father's house. The problem is that Potiphar had a CEO wife, and what I mean by that is a wife who doesn't really do anything. She's bored and she just kind of does whatever she wants, right? Buys whatever she wants, and doesn't have a good relationship with her husband. And so what Potiphar's wife would do was look around at the servants and decide who she wanted to seduce that day. Well, Joseph, being an attractive young man, probably about 18 by this point, Potiphar's wife decides that it's Joseph. Now, Joseph is like, yo, no, you are my boss's wife. I am not doing that. I'm not getting involved in that at all. And Potiphar's wife it very evilly says, listen, if you don't do what I ask, then I'm going to claim that you attacked me and I'm going to scream and then you're going to be in trouble. And Joseph's like, I'm not going to I'm not going to change how I feel. This is not right. This is not okay. So she screams. Potiphar rushes in. Potiphar's wife lies, and Joseph is thrown into prison. So it goes from bad to worse. So he gets in to prison, and not long after he's in prison, two of the two of the workers for the Pharaoh thrown in prison. The baker and like the cupbearer or like the butler, whatever you want to call him. So now they're sitting in prison together, and these workers for the Pharaoh, these Pharaoh's servants, have dreams. And Joseph's like, we're not going anywhere for a while. Tell me about these dreams. See if I can help. So the cupbearer says, I'll go first. All right, I'm standing in front of the vine and I see the grapes and I pick them and I crush them into wine and I've got them in this cup and I turn and there's Pharaoh and I walk over and I hand him the cup and he drinks it. It's so weird. I don't know what to do. What does that mean? And Joseph prays and he asks God to help him, interpret that. And he says, actually, that's really good news. Pharaoh's going to let you out of here. You'll go back to your old job. Sweet. So then the baker's like, okay, my turn, my turn. So the baker's dream goes like this. So he's got all of this big basket of bread, barely able to carry it. And he turns and he sees Pharaoh and he's walking toward Pharaoh. But high in the sky, there are these birds and they circle down and they start to grab the bread from the basket. And there's nothing the baker can do because he's holding the basket. And he starts to run toward the Pharaoh. And by the time he gets to Pharaoh, the birds have taken all the bread from the basket. Well, again, he prays and he thinks about it, and Joseph, says, "That's not exactly a great situation. It seems Pharaoh has it in for you. Your execution date is already set." So this comes to pass. They kill the baker, and the cupbearer goes and he's working for the Pharaoh again. Well, lo and behold, not long before the Pharaoh starts having dreams, and he calls all the wise men and the magi and the astrologers that he can think of to try to help him interpret these dreams that are keeping him up at night, and they're super disturbing. And so nothing works. Nobody can interpret this thing, and these dreams keep going, and he doesn't know what to do. Well, the cupbearer is like, "Hey, I know a guy. I know a guy who might have some knowledge about dreams." And Pharaoh's like, I don't even care where he comes from. Just go and get him because I need this. I need this fixed. So they bring Joseph before the Pharaoh, and Pharaoh explains the dreams. And he says, okay, so I'm standing, and Joseph is listening to this and taking it all in. Pharaoh says, I'm standing in front of the Nile River, and out of the Nile come these seven beautiful cows. They're nice, they're fat, they're healthy, everything's good. So I think, sweet. But then right behind them, out of the Nile, come these seven diseased, um, emaciated. They don't have any meat. They can barely stand. Their eyes are all like like flies are all on them and stuff. And they're gross. They're super disturbing. and they come and then they eat the good cows. And I think, ew, that's gross. But then he thinks, well, at least they'll like maybe get healthy. But they don't. They get even more diseased after the good cows are dead, and these cows just die. So it's super disturbing, and I don't know how to interpret these. So Joseph again prays, and he thinks about it and asks God for help, and he says, "Okay, I've got it. Um, the 7 good cows stand for 7 good years and good crops, and then the 7 diseased cows stand for 7 bad years. There's going to be a famine that hits the land, and if you don't do something, Egypt is going to fall." And actually, I've got an idea, says Joseph. And Pharaoh's like, I'm all ears. Let me know. So so after Pharaoh hears Joseph's idea, he's like, okay, you're in charge. You take the shackles off of him, put him in charge. So Joseph becomes super popular and super important to Egypt. And what he does is during those 7 years, he doesn't the bumper crops, he doesn't just let everybody pig out. He rations the food and all the things that are needed, and he creates these grain silos, and he keeps all of the excess that's that in saving it. This rationing is going to plan on helping when the famine hits, and lo and behold it does, right? And so now Egypt is the only game in town for food for people. And so even when it came time for um, Jacob and his sons who are way up in Canaan, when the famine hits there, they don't know what to do. So they realize that Egypt is the only game in town. So they decide they're going to go journey down and ask and beg for food from Egypt. So as they're about to go, Benjamin, who again is Jacob's last connection to Rachel, says, hey, and he's maybe like 10, um, I want to go too. I want to go to Egypt. And Jacob is like, absolutely not. And the brothers are like, well, why not? Let him go. It'll be fun. We'll take care of him. There's plenty of us. We'll be able to take care of the kid. And they actually get Jacob to concede this. And so off they go to Egypt. They go in front of the man who is in charge of giving out the grain, and they beg for this grain, right? And the man grants them the grain. Now, the man who is in charge of giving grain is Joseph, and they don't recognize him. And so they have to figure out. So they just beg down, and they're all bowing down and stuff like that. And so the prophecies, Joseph's early prophecies, are true, where you have the 11 bowing down to the one, and he realizes that they don't recognize him, and he sees them, and he's like, well, let's see if they've changed at all. And so he takes a golden cup and he puts it in one of the bags, and he gives them the grain, and off they go. They travel for about a day, and then all of a sudden the Egyptian soldiers come and take them back. And Joseph, in front of them, says, I'm super angry. One of you has stolen a precious golden cup. How dare you, after the generosity of this? And they they don't they don't know what's going on, and the cup ends up being in Benjamin's sack of grain. And so Joseph is like, all right, put shackles on that kid and throw him in jail. The rest of you can go, right? And they're like, no, we can't go back. We can't go back to Jacob without Benjamin. And so they all get down and they plead and plead and plead, that their father lost one son. He should never lose the second son. And they beg to take them instead of Benjamin. And this moves Joseph, but not enough. And he says, all right, I'll only give him back if I'll give him back to his father. So bring his father back here, and I will give him back. And we'll see in the next video what happens. So stay tuned.